Hey guys, Metal Viking 82 here, back with a new Viking Orations. Got another review for you today, and this time around I'm going to be talking to you about the forthcoming full-length album from the band Idle Throne, entitled A Clarion Call, out May 31st through Stormspell Records. And if you're not familiar with Idle Throne, they are a thrash slash power metal band out of Highland, Indiana. Been around since 2018, featuring Martin Bowman on lead and rhythm guitars, keyboards, and backing vocals. Jason Schultz on lead and rhythm guitar, as well as backing vocals. He, of course, is in the band Wraith, who you've heard me talk about a lot on this channel before. Trevor Kutta, or Kuta. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce your name. I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, he is on the bass. Aaron Grove on drums and percussion. He is a former member of Wraith, actually. And finally, Jake Quintanilla on the vocals, though it must be noted that Trevor has since left the band since this album was recorded. Amicable departure between him and the band. He has since been replaced for the spring tour by Kyle Ludovis. Not exactly sure how to pronounce your name again. I apologize. He actually played with Jason and Jake in a band called Mind's Horizon. So yeah, figured I'd throw that little tidbit out there. Yeah, this is the band's second full-length album. It is 8 tracks and just a little under 51 minutes in length. And, I've been a fan of this band since discovering their debut album, The Sibylline Age, after kind of discovering the connection to Wraith, who I was already a big fan of. So, when I was asked if I would like to check out this album and give my thoughts on it, I, of course, jumped at the opportunity and was very thankful for being given such an opportunity. And honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised, as I think this is probably the band's best work to date. The guitar work on this album is just absolutely fantastic, and honestly, Jason is just an absolute riff master, plain and simple. There's no getting around it. They're nice and crunchy. You get a lot of fast-paced riffing, but they also slow things down to like a more mid-paced and head-bangable gallop and groove as well. They don't just go full speed ahead all the time, but you also get the occasional break for the more slow-picked section. The guitars are heavy sounding at times, and just some absolutely killer solos all over this album. I actually get a slight Hammerfall, maybe a little bit of Falconer feel to the riffing at times. When you get into track number 2, Covenant of the Immortal, about 306 into that song, there's a nice example of those, slow picked passages that I was talking about. And you also get a good sense of Jake's vocal power and his ability before it's finally back to business as usual and full speed ahead at about 329 into the song, accompanied by a very cool sounding riff. I really loved that riff when they finally kind of kicked things back into gear. Then you get into the follow-up track number 3, King Among Jackals. I love that dual riff work that's going on at about the 655 mark with the bass twanging way underneath. It just sounded so cool, just the way you got those two guitars going at the same time, that bass just working together. Very cool stuff. The bass itself is nice and thick and not too high up in the mix. It's very easily heard throughout this whole album, but it does kind of cut through a little bit more at times and has its moments where it gets to make its presence felt. I love the drums on this album. It's got a really powerful production to it, lots of good patterns, rolls, and fills, as well as some really fast double bass work. And that's one of the things I've always loved about power metal, because that's kind of what I started out on when I was first really getting into metal. Was, of course, traditional heavy metal, but I was really into the power metal scene at the time. I love the subtle use of the keyboards on here, which that's a lot of complaints that some people have when it comes to power metal bands, is that the keyboards are too over the top. They're too high up. They rely on them too much. But here they're very subtle in how they use them. They're never too over the top. They're not high or overpowering any of the other instruments, but they're really utilized to give the song just that extra layer when it is needed. Good examples come in track number 3, King Among Jackals, at about 5:01, and then the closing track, Falconer's Cry, at the 3-minute mark. And also in track number 8, I love the kind of deep purplish feel the keyboards have at about 5:54. So like as soon as that section came in, it's like it kind of takes on that like organish feel that you would get from old Deep Purple, and I absolutely love that because Deep Purple is one of my favorite bands. I thought Jake's vocals on here are really solid. They're a nice combination of these kind of gritty, kind of thrashy style vocals with the more really more traditional, clean sounding vocals that kind of have almost this Dawkinish sound to them, I thought. And I like how they layer the two vocals at times, or even just the clean vocals, the way they layer them, kind of do like a choir-esque type effect to them. And then, of course, you also get some gang shouts because, if there's some thrash in this music, you're going to have gang shouts when it comes to thrash. The only other thing I picked out while listening to this, which, the more I listen to this album, I picked out more and more stuff that I, didn't notice before. And I actually took a little break from it and came back, and I discovered even more stuff, and it still kicked my ass just the same as it did the first time I heard it. But going back to the closing track, Falconer's Cry, I love the opening to this instrumental with the sounds of, it's either waves or it might be rain. I couldn't really tell because it was, it sounded similar, but I'm guessing they were waves. But it has this slow picked riff going on, and then the bass finally joins about 37 seconds into the song, and then it is soon followed by the drums at the 49-second mark with this cool little drum beat that he's doing. And then finally at 126, there's this riff that comes in that kind of has a little bit of like a medieval feel, which if you look at the album cover, and you hear that riff, it kind of makes sense. And then finally, about a 2:01 mark, it's back to business as usual, just full speed ahead with this nice heavy riff. I love the solos that come in this song at the 2:41 and the 4:32 marks, the latter of which actually leads to a nice little groove at the 5:10 mark with the keyboards going on underneath, giving it this extra cool effect. And even the keyboards get a little bit of a solo of their own at about 5:34. Great way to end this album. It's an all instrumental song, but it was really well done. Overall, I think this is just an absolutely fantastic follow-up, and I would even say a step up from the debut album here. It's catchy, it's headbangable with a lot of nice grooves, and despite all the songs being 4+ to 8+ minutes in length, the songs are so well written and they flow so well that you really don't even notice how long the song has been going on. Honestly, if you're a fan of thrash metal and power metal, I think this is an absolute must hear, in my opinion. I would definitely give this a 9 out of 10. Go check it out. I will be leaving a link down below so you can check out the single and pre-order a copy for yourself. Like I said, this comes out May 31st, 4 days after my birthday, so happy birthday to me early. But yeah, that is going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing, and until next time, stay brutal.